888-400-1932. In Spanish, 888-400-9342. 888-400-9342. If Vietnamese is your choice, 877-353-4701. That is 877-353-4701. And in Amharic, 888-849-5231. 888-849-5231. At any point, if you want to share your comments by text Denver 990 to the number 22333. That is 22333, and text us with Denver 990. All of this information will be at the bottom of every slide that you see before you. So if you've missed it, please look down and it's right there for you. All right. Let's get right after it with some questions for our callers, some demographic questions. You see them on screen right now. What is your relationship to Denver? Now, if you want to participate in this poll, again, there are lots of ways to do it. To respond to the poll itself, go to, excuse me, you respond at pollev.com/Denver990, or you can use text again at 22333, Denver990, and then answer the questions. What is your relationship to Denver? Either A, or 1, you live here, B, you work here, punch in number 2 if you're doing it by phone. You live and work here, that's response C, or 3 if you're doing it by phone. You visit Denver, that's D, or the number 4, or none of the above. You're just interested in what's going on in Denver, that's E or 5. Please answer that poll right now. We'll give you some results as we go. Keep that on screen for just a bit. All right, we'll have results coming in shortly. And here they come on screen. Pretty interesting, even distribution. About a third of you live here. About 20% work here. About 30% live and work here. No visitors on the line today, at least not yet. And none of the above. There are about 18% that are just interested in what's happening in Denver today. Get an update of that real quickly. See how the numbers are changing. We will have several of these polls throughout our morning together. We hope you participate in each and every one. It'll give us some good information about who you are, what you're concerned about, where you come from. Those numbers are hanging pretty evenly. About a third of you live here, and probably half live and work here to some degree. We will keep compiling these statistics, and we may update you on occasion as we go through the next 90 minutes. Who's with us today? We've got an outstanding lineup of panelists. Mayor Michael Hancock, City Council President Stacy Gilmore, Don Mares, the Executive Director of Denver Human Services, Eric Haraga, the Executive Director of Denver Economic Development and Opportunity, and Adam Fitz, the Acting City Director for the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. All right, let me welcome our first guest, and we'll start with Denver's Mayor, Michael Hancock. Mayor Hancock, good morning.
Well, Adam, good morning, and thank you for doing this as well. And good morning to everyone out there who's on the line with us today.
Indeed, a pleasure, sir. Tell us a bit about what got us here today and what makes this conversation so important to you.
Adam, you know, we all don't need to say it, but it's important to remind us that we've just been through the most, amazing year that any of us have ever experienced in our lifetime. And we emerged from this pandemic. We go from rescuing the city to recovery. It's important that we do it in a way that not only helps the city to recover, but we do it in a way that sustains our recovery. And we implement a recovery that is much more equitable across the board. We reach those who have been hardest hit by the pandemic. This city, our city, we are planning to roll out a strategy that invests over $700 million in our city over the coming months. And we start with, of course, very strategically and thoughtfully investing the coronavirus funds that are coming from the federal government. We are expecting about $308 million over the next 2 years to come to the city of Denver. And then we are looking to go to the people in November. And this is why we're here today, to engage the residents of Denver, our visitors, people who live, work, and play in Denver, to really talk about what's important to them as we look to invest $400 million in infrastructure in our city. Where should we put those dollars? What's on your minds? What should we be investing in that really raises, I think, the value of our city and really gets at the challenges that we are trying to meet? And so this is a critically important conversation. And again, everything we do, the value of equity will be woven throughout.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to now introduce the Denver City Council President, Stacey Gilmore.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Adam. And thank you, Mayor Hancock, for your leadership and all of the city staff and team who have worked so hard putting this together. And, you know, we saw throughout the pandemic neighborhoods who were really disproportionately impacted. And I sincerely, and I know the mayor and others sincerely thank everyone for coming together in ways that none of us could have ever imagined before. You know, we provided COVID testing sites, vaccination sites, food and resource access, youth safe zones, and much more. And all of you exemplify what true community really looks like. And during this recovery phase, it's important that we hear from the community, and especially those who were hardest hit, so that we know as a city how to prioritize these stimulus recovery dollars. And it's crucial that we're intentional during this process in reaching out and listening to what you have to say, because this is really your money. And we want to make sure that we're getting it out to the community and that we're investing not only in services and supports, but those important infrastructure projects that will also create jobs within the Denver and the regional economy. And so we are so grateful for you joining us this morning and look forward to the conversation, and an honor to be here as well. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Ms. Gilmore. Okay, let's move right to our community recovery conversation. First, a question, another survey poll. You'll see it on screen in just a second. Again, same instructions. You can respond by telephone, you can respond texting, or on the internet at pollev.com/Denver990. When it comes to community support, what's most important to you? And to answer this poll, go with the responses of childcare being letter A or number 1, food access if it's most important to you. That's B or number 2. Housing and support for people experiencing homelessness. That's answer C or 3. Mental health care, D or 4. Transportation access, E or 5. Question again, when it comes to community support, what is most important to you? Childcare, food access, housing and support for people experiencing homelessness, mental health, or transportation. Okay, that polling is going to come in. We'll show it on screen in just a second. But to speak to these issues, we have Executive Director of Denver Human Services, Don Mahrez, with us today, and he's here to hear your comments and feedback. Don, welcome. And what can you tell us about these categories?
Oh, great to have you here with us, Adam, and thank you for the pronunciation. I appreciate your Espanol. Let me start by saying what you're hearing is what we're doing. I think both the mayor and council president have used words inclusive and listening to people. That is not just a message point, if you will. I mean, I think this very forum that we've done multiple times and are going to continue to do evidence is that we really are serious about hearing from people. And I think that our recovery really won't be what we are all hoping it will be if we aren't asking people what their opinions are about these items. You know, it's not enough for us just to, in our worlds, figure out what we think is the right thing to do. I think it's just so critical that we hear from folks, and that will lead to the kind of recovery that we're all after. This pandemic has just hit us so hard and has pointed out so many challenges in relation to healthcare and how people are. But it's also pointed out, as President Gilmore mentioned, this incredible disproportionate impact on people that really highlighted issues of inequities in our communities. If you are a person of color, or if you're a woman who's been impacted by this, you know this. So as we move forward and look at how it's hitting people and these very issues that are on the screen, which actually impacted some people who otherwise wouldn't have ever come to us for services, for example, we need to hear what's on your mind and what you think we ought to be focused on as we look at not only spending the money that we are putting together, but even as we do our day-to-day work going forward.
Thank you, Don. I'm seeing the results on screen to the second poll. Wait a second, we just lost it. We're going to go to our first caller, Bernadette from Bear Valley. We'd love to hear your comment.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. My question is in regards to the money that is going to be given to Denver, Colorado. How, being good fiduciaries, how are you going to make sure there's checks and balances and the money hits the neighborhoods that were hit the hardest? Valverde was hit pretty hard, and it's always been marginalized even today. And COVID exposed a lot of stuff that was going on. So in a way, it brought out and brought to light what was not being done for these poor communities. And I do thank the mayor for the Youth Empowerment Center. I'm grateful for that. But there's no grocery store in that neighborhood. There's no libraries. I mean, there's one park, if you even want to call it a park. So how are you going to make sure that this money is given to these poor communities and that every penny is accounted for?
And I can certainly respond first, and if anybody else wants to chime in, that's good. You know, Bernadette, I'll tell you one thing is, by virtue of the fact that you even called and you're saying that, you're helping us ensure we're looking in that way, because the whole purpose of these calls is to hear from people, and you showed up to this conversation. So number one, thank you for being the representative of Valverde and those communities that we need to focus on. Number two, you've probably heard about the effort of the Denver Police Department and where they're focusing their energies, and where Denver Human Services has a Human Services Index, and where we're focusing our energies. Eric Haraga, who you're going to hear from. I mean, we are pulling together data that is showing us where those more severe impacts, disparate impacts are happening. And I can tell you that we are there. Now, how the mayor's holding us accountable, you heard him talk. He's telling all of us we have to do this work. I would say Councilwoman Gilmore may want to respond, because she and her colleagues are also asking those tough questions. So there's a lot going on that is holding us accountable around this. And then, of course, bottom line is our bosses, which are people like you. So I see Eric raised his hand.
Eric, over to you.
Great, thank you. It's a very good question. So we have our neighborhood equity stabilization team to really focus on those neighborhoods at risk of displacement, and Valverde certainly is a focus. I think within a month or so, we will be releasing nonprofit grants up to $15,000 in neighborhoods like Valverde. Nonprofits that support that neighborhood will definitely qualify. So I encourage all of you out there to talk to your organizations that support your neighborhood and apply. In addition, I would say that as we do get more additional resources, and the mayor did speak to the federal stimulus funds that are coming, we will be looking at those nest neighborhoods, as we call them, to focus on that. So I think there'll be additional RFP opportunities, more resources, and it'll run the whole gamut from affordable housing to workforce to just support services. I know a lot of people are really being impacted by COVID financially. So financial assistance and really just connecting people to resources that are out there.
City Council President.
Well, thank you. And Bernadette, thank you for that question. And I would also encourage you to reach out directly to your city council representative, because I know that all of us on city council really want to hear from our constituents. And it's important that you stay involved, not only through this process, but also through our 2022 budget process that the city is also embarking upon at this time as well, because we in the city, we're keeping maps and tracking our equity investments so that we can make sure that communities like yours are at the top of the list to get some of these infrastructure improvements. I live in Montbello and have for 25 years. And so I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's important that all of our community members stay really engaged during this conversation, because now is the time for us as a city to make these investments.
Thank you. Mayor Hancock, did you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I just want to share, I certainly absolutely agree with what Council President Gilmore just said. You know, if you look at over Denver's history, whenever there was a recessionary challenge facing our city and our nation, Denver has always been pretty wise about recognizing the power of the public to lean in, and public government spending resources in order to keep the economy moving. I'll tell you, in the last Great Recession, if it wasn't for the public investment by the city of Denver, there would have been no construction or industry happening whatsoever to keep our construction companies, our architects, our electrical engineers, our and other laborers working. The whole downstream system of procurement for construction, we would have collapsed even more. And so while we're in this economic slowdown, while we expect there to be some buoyancy, if you will, some rebounding of the economy, just naturally, we can't depend on the federal government and state government. It has to be the city government also willing to put a little skin in the game, to lean in and do what we've always done. And that is to create a nice, smart, thoughtful economic strategy to invest in infrastructure. And that's where I really agree with Councilwoman Gilmore. We have never done this without talking to the people first and going to them and soliciting their ideas. So this is also about, you know, it's about informing, but it's also about hearing from the people. So Adam, I appreciate, again, everybody being on here for this important conversation.
Thank you, sir. All right, we have next up Yvonne from Mount Cliff. Yvonne, tell us where community recovery funds should be invested. What are your thoughts?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Michael, and the rest of you there. I'm living in Montclair neighborhood, where I moved so that we could downsize. Now, at this point, we are paying what we were paying when we were trying to get away and downsize. I would like to know, what are we going to do with this funding that's going to be an assistance for renters who are with land people who feel it's okay to raise the rent $400 a pop, things like that. I have a friend who just returned from Ghana, and she's telling me that she just can't believe how the rents have gone up in this area. And what it does is, those of us who come into the neighborhood and are responsible people in the neighborhood, we're being forced out because we can't afford to live there anymore. And then you have people who are not as responsible who will come in and destroy the property, but they're welcome to come in. So I would like to know, how are we going to use this money, redirect this money, in order to help those of us who are renting from landlords who are more concerned with profits?
Well, great question, Yvonne. And let me start by saying we'll chalk this up as a loud vote for having some of these monies go to helping people who are struggling with their rent. So staff, mark that one down. Number two, one interesting dynamic of these kind of town halls is it gives us a chance to talk about things we're doing that people may not be aware of. So both my department, so the Department of Human Services, as well as the Housing Stability Department, which Mayor Hancock created about 2-ish years ago to focus on issues related to housing. both of those departments have very robust rent relief programs. And so you feel free, we will try to reconnect with you or look online and go to the Human Services or host housing stability departments, and you can find out where and refer people to those websites to get rent relief. That's a big deal. There's a program called TRUA that is run over at Host that really helps. We also have a property tax relief program, which I always like to mention because we don't get enough people applying for property tax relief. So again, Denver Human Services would be the website to go to and look for property tax relief. But again, I'll end where I started, which was we will chalk your comment up as a loud voice to look at these funds going to help people who are struggling with rent.
Thank you, Don. All righty, we're going to introduce another poll in just a second, but at the same time we're doing that, I want to turn to Tess from District 9. Tess, you're on the line. Tess, are you out there? You may want to hit 0 to unmute yourself. Give another half second to Tess to orient herself. If not, we're going to turn to Rachel from North Highlands.
Hi, this is Rachel.
Hi,
and
Rachel.
My question has to do with, well, again, allocation of resources to various neighborhoods. In Highlands, we've experienced a real uptick in what the police might call petty crime. Porch pirates, spring plantings being uprooted and walked off with. We've been robbed several times, our garage, our yard, and even our house. We've reported these incidents to the police, and nothing really changes. It's getting worse and worse. And I may be a little cynical here, but I'm just thinking if this level of ongoing crime was happening in a wealthier area like Cherry Creek, there would be a much more robust response. What we get from the police is, I can give you a report for your insurance. And basically that's it. We don't see increased patrols. We don't see any more help at all. Can you respond to that?
Well, I can respond from sort of the human services side of things, which is we are partnering with the police to try to ensure that, we all know that what leads people to commit crimes, and it frankly probably doesn't matter whether it's a very serious crime to a so-called petty crime, is that they need help, that they've got challenges in their family life that led to some of this behavior. So know that human services departments and such are really working with police to try to get those services to people. As for the other issue, I think the mayor may have some comment about
Yeah,
that.
Don, thank you. Rachel, first of all, thanks for that point. And I can tell you that we are seeing some crime uptick across the city. And actually, the leading uptick, our crime that's we're seeing, and that's most concerning to us, is violent crimes, violent assaults that are occurring. And let me say this, and as a former city councilman, this is something I learned, and I'm not saying you did. The reality is that 96% of all crimes, such as the petty crime, the thefts, the burglaries that occur, we actually can prevent 96% of those crimes. They become crimes of opportunity, whether we left our garage door open, a window open while we were in the backyard, something of that nature. And I have been in these type of experiments with police officers time and time again, from city council to mayor, where you just walk around the community and you document crimes of opportunity. So when I go into community meetings and we hear the type of crimes that you're talking about, and by the way, officers have to prioritize their calls. And unfortunately, we are being, number of officers retiring and what have you from the department. We are working to get more officers on the street. But in prioritizing those calls, what you may be seeing is that the violent assaults that are occurring, the violent crime that's occurring is taking priority. Doesn't mean that just because they're taking a report, they're not going to follow up on your call. It just means that right now, best we can do is to write a report so you can report to your insurance company. And as they see these trends of burglaries and petty crimes occurring, they will devote more resources that they have possibly to investigate. But just know, again, 96% of these crimes that occur, you and I have greater impact than police in preventing them from happening.
Thank you, Mayor. Our second poll is on the screen. Which housing solutions would be the most helpful to you and your family? And again, there are two ways to respond to this poll at pollev.com/Denver990 or texting Denver 990 to 22333 to join, and then indicating your answer by 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. On screen, if you are on the internet, which housing solutions would be the most helpful to you and your family? A, or 1, a wider variety of housing options in the neighborhood to reduce overcrowding and or displacement. B, eviction prevention, that's B or 2. C or 3, increased affordable housing. D or 4, mortgage assistance. Or 5 or E, ongoing rental assistance. Again, which housing solutions would be the most helpful to you and your family? A wider variety of housing options in the neighborhood, eviction prevention, increased affordable housing, mortgage assistance, or ongoing rental assistance. Your answers are valuable. We would love to see what you think. They're coming in right now. The majority seem to be in increased affordable housing. About a third of you have answered in that way. Another third have answered in more, now it's down to 25, 30% mortgage assistance and ongoing rental assistance. Thank you for your answers. Keep participating, please. All righty. We're going to move to our next agenda item in just a moment. We'll give you another second or two to respond to that survey. We have a third question as well. All righty, some fascinating numbers there. Ever changing. Increased affordable housing seems to be your preference. We'll move to the third survey in just a second. Here it comes now. Which solutions would be the most helpful to you and your, no, that's not it. Which solutions would be the most helpful to you and your family to access nutritious food? Which solutions would be the most helpful to you and your family to access food? Answer A or 1 if you think more farmers markets or community gardens within a 10-minute walk from your house would be most helpful. B or 2 if you need more or advocate for more food delivery programs. C or 3, more food sources that meet special dietary or cultural needs and preferences. D, more places that accept SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Funding, also known as food stamps, or the Women, Infant, Children program. What solutions would be the most helpful to you and your family to access nutritious food? Leadership in Denver wants to know. The polls will stay open for another couple of seconds. Don, what do you think about these categories?
Yeah, really, really important to hear what people think about both of these categories. I will say a couple things first about the housing piece, which is, again, people may not understand how much we do to try to keep people in their homes, whether it's through the programs I already mentioned, the rent assistance, the property tax program, the affordable housing funds we have, and all of that. That's a big deal. And we think that's important. But again, important to hear from you all. And it sounds like you sort of agree with that point of view. Number 2, the whole issue of people who are unhoused is obviously on folks' minds, and is a combination of issues. It's a combination of affordability. It's a combination of the services that a lot of those folks need, mental health services and the like, and know that the mayor has really focused us on trying to get those services to those communities. And then I guess let me just lastly comment on the food piece. If I had to pick the one issue that has been a stark new reality for me during this pandemic, it was just how many people need food. Our numbers in human services have blown up in terms of people who are on the formal SNAP program, food stamps, to 99,000 people. It's up, highest it's ever been. But on top of that, these food pantries we have, the mayor and I were handing food out with Rocky and all the rest of them. And the line was just up the street at the Pepsi Center or whatever, the Ball Arena. And it just astounds me how many people really are that sort of perilously in need of food in their lives, even though they're not showing that most of the time. So I think our focus on food and food resources is just amazing. You know, when we distribute 5 million meals during the pandemic, that should send us a big signal. But again, we are very anxious to hear how you answer these questions and where your focus should be.
All righty. Thank you, Don. Last seconds to answer the poll. We are going to move right now, though, to business recovery. And we have a question to start. When it comes to Denver's economy, what is most important to support an equitable and sustainable recovery? 5 potential answers here. When it comes to Denver's economy, what's the most important to support an equitable, sustainable economy? First, job seekers and workforce development. B or 2, local business support. C or 3, community and neighborhood support. D or 4, public infrastructure and investment. E or 5, government regulations for Denver businesses. While we're doing that polling, I'm going to introduce Executive Director of Denver Economic Development and Opportunity, Eric Hiraga. He's with us today to hear your comments and speak about community support. Eric, welcome. And what can you tell us about each of these categories?
Thank you, Adam, and thank you for the very good Japanese pronunciation. Really appreciate that, and pleased to be here today. And as you look at these categories, all of them are very important to economic recovery. Really want to get people back to work and into good paying jobs and career paths with benefits. We need to support our local businesses. We need to really have vibrant neighborhoods, which is also critical to our economic recovery, and obviously invest in infrastructure. It not only improves our environment, but creates jobs. So I think as you look at this list, they're all critical to Denver's economy and our future recovery.
Thank you, sir. Our polling results are coming in. Most seem to be aligned for job seekers and workforce development and community and neighborhood support. Keep those answers coming. We should be turning to callers in just a second. Job seekers and workforce development still heading the pack. Community and neighborhood support. We'll take our second polling in this topic in a moment. We invite our callers to call in and offer your thoughts to Eric and others as we move through this next 15 minutes. We have Andrea from Park Hill. Andrea.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
A couple of us, just good morning. I know you guys have heard that saying, an idle mind is a devil's workshop. And one of the things that I believe would really benefit, especially my community and so many others, is if we looked at putting funding in trade schools and giving young adults, especially young men between the ages of 18 to like 25, an opportunity to go to trade schools to learn how to work on semi-trucks, plumbing, electricity, and all these areas. And I think also if we put the funding there in such a way that we didn't make it difficult for them to receive it. I know that when during the COVID, large businesses basically filled out a one-page application saying they needed it and the money was, zipped to their accounts. And sometimes in our communities, you have to give your firstborn child away before they will decide whether or not you're eligible. Some of these young men and women, they might have felonies, they might have things on their records, but sometimes I think what happens is we're so busy trying to teach them how to do things in terms of schooling that they can't think because they're dealing with so many issues in their lives. But if you give them hands-on practical applications on how to do different things, it gives them an opportunity to quiet their minds down. The other thing I think we should do with that trade opportunity is we should also add a stipend to it. We should give these kids minimum wage payment if they're, if it's an 8-hour class, for 6 months for them to learn plumbing. Give them minimum wage payments so that they can at least have some income coming in while they're going to school to learn. And I think when you talk about petty debt theft and all that kind of stuff, you'll find that a lot of that just might decrease. I think also the thing we need to do is also provide some of these opportunities in schools as well. But the big piece for me is 18 to 25, maybe even 30-year-olds. The other thing I wanted to say is that I think, individuals, like if this were something like you guys decided to use as an idea, I think we should take people from the community to help to actually structure the implementation of it, as opposed to just having the idea given to you guys and then you guys construct the implementation, and then give those community people a stipend as well. So often community volunteers are always asked to volunteer while city employees are paid if they're there 6 or 7 o'clock at night. So I know I'm asking, talking about the stipend situation, but you're also dealing with communities that want the best for their families and their communities, but they're usually the ones that are struggling too. So I think it would be a great opportunity if we could do something like that. Thank you for letting me give my input.
Thank you. Eric, reactions?
Yeah, no, those are very good ideas. And really, we are very focused on the youth workforce programs, but there's always more that we can do. I think that there is a massive need for labor right now, and to really engage that 18 to 25-year-old age group is pivotal, especially as we go through this summer. So thank you for your thoughts. In terms of really focusing our work, I think our strategy is as we get more funds, especially for workforce services, which is a department within my agency, we do plan on deploying opportunities to work with community partners. You mentioned that is a better strategy, and I do agree with you. So as we go along and as we get more guidance on how funds can be used, I think we will be reaching out and having a process to work with within the community.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric. We have another polling question up, an opportunity for the people of Denver to get their thoughts to the leadership in our city. If you are seeking employment, what are some of the barriers that are preventing you from returning to work? 5 choices. A or 1, there are no opportunities in my field of expertise, or maybe I'm looking for work outside of my field of expertise. B or 2, I do not want to return to my previous job because of the low pay. C, the third barrier, I do not have children and or elder care coverage. D or 4, I don't have reliable transportation. 5 or E, there's a lack of technology or internet access to explore employment opportunities or to work remotely. 5 choices. If you're seeking employment, what are some of the barriers that prevent you from returning to work? Same rules apply. You can text us, internet. Please respond to get us that information. And we have a couple more callers while you're taking that poll. First, Carlos from Jefferson Park. Welcome, Carlos.
Oh, hi. My name is Carlos, and I own a business in Jefferson Park neighborhood. It's a comedy murder mystery dinner theater, actually. And so I guess my questions, comments go kind of under the umbrella of help for small business. I think pretty much everybody will admit that small businesses are kind of the backbone of the economy. They just help so much in terms of generating jobs, and they're just good for the local economy because a lot of the money, is spent and used locally. There's a shuttered venues program that it's like most of the programs that we've applied for. We were shut down for pretty much about half of the year because we have live entertainment. We were like the last category that could open, the last type of business that was allowed to reopen again. So again, we were shut down about half the year. But I just think that any help for small businesses, just goes a long way, especially locally in the community. But a lot of people have told us that they're just so glad that we can hopefully stay open and get back to where we were. We used to employ 30 actors and caterers, and now we're down to just a handful of performers, and basically just kind of trying to do a lot of the food service and cleaning ourselves. As a matter of fact, I'm one of the owners, and I spent last night washing dishes and whatever it takes to keep the door open. And it's also, to me, it's a form of bonding. So many people tell us that the shows create such a bonding and such laughter and joy to people. We get that comment all the time. It's almost like we're not only providing the entertainment, but my wife and I, as the owners, we feel like we're also helping the mental health of the community, because people have been enclosed for so long. It's just so nice to see them going out and sitting with people and laughing and sharing good moments like that.
Very good. Thank you, Carlos, and appreciate your comments. Events, venues, artists, it really adds the vibrancy of any city, and definitely an important industry sector for us. And I would also like to say that you are correct. Small business is the backbone of the economy, employing 50% of jobs out there. So that is a focus. As we pivoting towards reopening, really dedicated a lot of resources, about $22 million so far towards small business grants and nonprofit grant relief. And now we're going to repivot to really help support businesses. We have a business impact opportunity fund that is part of one of our proposals. And it's really looking at businesses at risk of relocation or dislocation, displacement. And we're also looking at using those monies, whether it could be for safety and security, whether it could be to help with your lease, facade improvements. And so we are very focused in that area. In terms of specific items towards the event industry, I know our sister agency over at Arts and Venues has deployed over $1 million and it's assisted over 440 venues and artists. And so hopefully there's more help to come. And then our office, we're working with the Colorado Events Association to really help those workers that lost their jobs, whether it's a subsidy, $500 to $1,000 cash subsidy. So as we're repivoting and workers back, we'll continue those partnerships and do more.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric. I think there was a question out there on race and ethnicity, and we're going to pull up a slide right now. Eric, you may have some things to say to that slide.
Yes, I think as the slide pops up. So are we doing the polling question?
I think we're going to cover that in just a second. There's a different slide that is coming up. Okay, while we're go ahead, Eric, please.
Yeah, as we look at this slide, we are seeing really a disproportionate impact to our communities of color. Looked at the McKinsey American Opportunity Survey, which is a national survey, but they really drilled down into the Denver metro area. And it was a bit alarming as we've looked at the data. 43% of Black and Hispanic Latino respondents and 42% of Asian American respondents can cover expenses for 2+ months after job loss. As we looked at respondents from the Hispanic Latino community, 38% of respondents reported decreased income in the last year compared to 29% of overall respondents. So there is a disproportionate impact and something that I think the entire city is focused on really leveling the playing field.
Thank you, sir. And we do have another poll up right now. For those of you on the phone, I'll read out the choices. What best describes you? This is a demographic poll. Either A or 1, Asian or Pacific Islander, B or 2, Black or African American, C or 3, Hispanic or Latino, D or 4, White or Caucasian, E or 5, multiracial or race ethnicity not previously listed. Which best describes you? A, 1, Asian or Pacific Islander, B or 2, Black or African American, C or 3, Hispanic or Latino, D or 4, White or Caucasian, E or 5, multiracial or a race or ethnicity not mentioned. Okay, I'm going to go to one more caller. I've got time for this. If I mispronounce this name, I am so sorry. This would be Nigisti from Denver. Nigisti, are you out there?
Yeah, you're right. Nigisti.
Thank you.
Nigisti. How are you today? Morning. How are you, everybody? How's, Mayor Handcuff? I know him. I'm Eritrean American, Eritrean community. When he come mayor, I meet him in Eritrean community. I'm Eritrean American. I work Rose Medical Center with ACA Health One for 25 years. I asking people, to work, and then some people, they scare the coronavirus, nothing to scare. People, if they go back to work, we get normal. The city, Denver, Colorado, be normal. But if it depended the government, is not good. We're not going to do good. If the government open a job, people go back to work. Is my question. If they go back to work, everything be normal. If it depends for the government, people get sick. I understand people get tired, or they can't work. It's a problem. But people healthy, they should go back to work and then open businesses. In Colorado, I lived 28 years in Denver, Colorado. It wasn't like that before. It was good, but we have a lot of problem right now. Depended the government with food stamps, money. Or how many people they can support the government? That's my question.
Okay, so yes, you're correct. We really need to get people back to work. And really, there's barriers that we're identifying, whether it's transportation access, childcare, elder care, health concerns. And so through our workforce development, workforce services department, we're really working hard to connect employers with employees. I think that as we work on our strategies, we also need to provide those wraparound support services that go along with it. So whether it's stipends so people can get to work, whether it's supporting people to get the tools that they need for the job, or even vouchers for childcare. So I think it spans the whole spectrum.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Nigas T, for participating today. I've got one last poll in this business section. It is on screen now. I'll read it for the benefit of our callers. If you are a business owner, as you prepare to move forward toward opening at full capacity, what are the barriers to success you're most concerned about? 5 categories here. A or 1, employee and customer health. B or 2, household demands, as before, like a lack of childcare or elder care for your household. C or 3, the cost of rent or leasing or the mortgage. D or 4, the lack of customer demand. E or 5, the need for more employees. Once again, for benefit of everybody out there, if you are a business owner, as you prepare to move forward to opening at full capacity, what are the barriers to success you're most concerned about? Employee and customer health, household demands, cost of rent and leases and mortgage, lack of customer demand, or the need for more employees. Give a couple extra seconds to answer this poll. Eric, what do you think about these categories? What are you seeing out there?
Yes, I think they all resonate. In terms of the business side of the portfolio, we are looking at pulling every lever that we can, whether it's lease assistance, whether it's really helping and train and upskilling and supporting our entrepreneurs out there. I did talk about some of the other resources that we have, or the barriers really when it comes to employee health and safety. You need to feel safe if you're going to get back to work. So all of these are critical.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you to our callers. Let's move now to our third portion of the agenda on infrastructure investments. We'll do this for about 20 minutes or so. We'll have another poll coming up in just a second, but as we do, let me ask, who do we have here? We got Adam Phipps here. We have acting city engineer for the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. His name's Adam Phipps. He's with us today to hear your feedback and comments and speak about infrastructure investments. Adam, my namesakes, welcome. What can you tell us about these issues?
Well, Adam, let me first commend you on an excellent name there as well. And thank you for having me this morning. Happy to be here. You know, infrastructure is a broad topic and a topic that we hear a lot about these days. And it's a topic that's near and dear to the heart to the Denver community. And we're going to see some good polling opportunities here to really hear the feedback from what folks want to see as it relates to infrastructure investment, whether that's from a more traditional definition of infrastructure when we think about roads and bridges, or whether it's more of a community impact type of investment, such as a library or a fire station, or an expansion of a park. And so certainly looking forward to hearing the feedback today. We will have the opportunity in Denver to vote for a general obligation bond issuance here this November that will greatly allow us to expand and maintain our current infrastructure, which is an opportunity that not a lot of cities have, and one that we certainly are fortunate to have here in Denver.
Glad to have you here. Welcome. Just a reminder, if you'd like to get your comments in, if you'd like to speak to Adam or anybody else here, call in any of the 4 numbers you see at the bottom of the screen in English, 888-400-1932, in Spanish, 888-400-9342, in Vietnamese, 877-353-4701, in Amharic, 888-849-5231. Hit 0 once you get in. You'll speak to a screener and they'll send you on through to me if we have time. All right. Another poll coming up on screen while we're waiting for our callers to step in. The question will be this: when it comes to citywide infrastructure, what is the most important thing to you? 5 possible choices. A or 1, building safe and accessible streets, sidewalks, bike lanes, and a transportation system. B, expanding and enhancing the parks and recreation system. C or 3, supporting water conservation and environmental resiliency. D or 4, improving community and cultural buildings like libraries and fire station venues, arenas, museums, and more. 5 or E, improving spaces to serve people experiencing homelessness and promote public health. Once again, when it comes to citywide infrastructure, what's the most important thing to you? A, building safe and accessible streets and sidewalks and stuff. B, expanding and enhancing the parks and rec system. C or 3, supporting water conservation and environmental resilience. D or 4, improving community and cultural buildings like libraries and fire stations and all of that. And 5 and E, improving spaces to serve people experiencing homelessness and promote public health. Poll results are coming in. You'll see them on screen as we go. Phones are ringing. We'll call on people in just a second. As the numbers keep improving, let's go to Sister Mary. Sister Mary, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to talk about a wonderful facility that has not been in good use in the last several years. It's the May Bonfils Stanton Theater in Southwest Denver, located on the former campus of Loretto Heights College. We know from experience that art experience is so wonderful for the elevation of the human spirit, the human soul, that we have to have those day-to-day needs cared for in terms of employment, education, job training, nutritious food, transportation, childcare, affordable housing. We indeed support that, but we know that the human spirit needs more. The fine arts, music, to elevate our souls, to get us to think in the stars. And so I advocate that folks strongly support the renovation of the May Bonfils Stanton Theater in Southwest Denver, which needs this cultural facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Mary. This is fascinating. In addition to your comments, this is one of the polls that we put up that clearly gives leadership direction. And the results are stunning as an outsider looking in, and agree with your remarks, Sister Mary. Overwhelmingly, people responding to the poll believe that the highest priority should be in improving community and cultural buildings like libraries, fire stations, the venues, and museums, and all of that. Interesting to me is that there doesn't seem to be anyone involved in the poll that is encouraging city leadership to build safe and accessible streets and sidewalks and bike lanes and all of that. Fascinating. Adam, what's your reaction to this?
It's a surprise. I'll be honest. And hopefully one of the reasons we see this is we've really been focusing on safe infrastructure over the last few years. And specifically, if we look just at 2020, we completed 40 miles of dedicated bikeways, 10 miles of sidewalks. Those are numbers of improvements in areas that we've never seen in the history of Denver. And so we've really made some leaps and bounds. But I also think, what we're hearing, and we heard this from Sister Mary, we've heard this in some of the previous town halls, a lot of interest around that cultural engagement. I think we even heard that from a caller earlier today, I believe Carlos, if I recall correctly, about how that impacts us. And I think as we've endured this pandemic for a year plus now, that ability to connect with our community and to do so in an entertaining fashion in a cultural venue is important. And so this, to your point, Adam, is exactly why we're doing these town halls, is that we need this feedback. We want this feedback so that we can steer our investments to those areas that the people of Denver see the greatest need.
Good stuff. All right, we've got a few more callers out there. We've got a couple more polls too. Let's turn next to Sally from Ruby Hill. Sally, good morning.
Yeah, this is Sally. Thanks for taking my call and allowing me to give my opinion. Are you there?
We sure are. Good morning.
I thought I maybe made a mistake when I did whatever I did. Yeah, I am very, very interested in what y'all are going to do for the homeless. I certainly don't want Denver to turn into Seattle. And, remember last year when you had to clean up the park because there were rats in the trees? I mean, we just can't have that in our city. Denver is such a beautiful city. And I just want to know what we can do. Is there some program or some way or something you're thinking about for helping the people that are mentally ill and homeless, and just what's your plan there?
And I'm happy to chat about that, Adam. Again, for those who may have joined late, Don Morris from Denver Human Services. Well, let me start by saying this. We have an incredibly focused effort right now on getting services to some of these folks who are unhoused. There's a lot more people who are struggling with this issue than those you see on the street. And the mayor's creation of that housing stability office is really looking at how we can address the needs of people who are unhoused or at risk of being unhoused, number one. Number two, we put together these impact teams that consist of folks from my department of Human Services, plus folks who have housing kind of resources. And we actually go to folks who are living in these tents or wherever and really trying to understand what their issues are. Oh, and by the way, how could I leave off with behavioral health connections? We're trying to also say, we realize folks have alcohol or drug or other kinds of mental health issues. So how can we address those? We really work on folks who are unhoused, trying to meet them with the issues they have, trying to do it with compassion, understanding that their health and the health of our community is also really important. So that's why we have actually done these cleanups of these kinds of facilities, because as you mentioned, they can be really negatively impacting their own health and the health of the community. So we're taking a pretty holistic approach to this. It's a tough issue. We think we're doing better than a lot of cities, and knock wood, we keep doing better than a lot of cities. So appreciate the question.
Great. Adam, any other thoughts on that comment?
Not a lot more to add, Don. I appreciate the support there. It's a complex issue, and one that we're constantly working, holistically as a city to address. And so I certainly appreciate the caller bringing attention to it. And thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. We're going to take David in just a moment, David from Union Station, but there's a poll up that I want to tee up before we turn to David. Infrastructure can have a variety of economic benefits. What do you think the city should prioritize? 4 answers to this poll. First, projects that offer the most jobs, including apprenticeships and job training opportunities. That would be A or 1. Second, projects that support Denver's tourism and hospitality industries. That's B or 2. C, projects that offer the most opportunities for small, minority, and women-owned businesses. That's C or 3. Last choice, D or 4, is projects that improve access to technology like computers and internet. Once again, infrastructure can have a variety of economic benefits. What do you think the city should prioritize? One's the projects that offer the most jobs, projects that support Denver's tourism and hospitality, projects that offer the most opportunities for small, minority, and women-owned businesses, or the last choice, projects that improve access to technology like computers and the internet. All right, while you're answering that question, David from Union Station, good morning.
Hi, good morning. I hope you all can hear me. I am curious about what we're going to do with this money to impact what's going on in our Denver County Jail. I'm aware right now of some pretty subpar food conditions and Kool-Aid packets instead of milk for cereal, stuff like that. I think that maybe this would go to help that situation. That would be helpful.
David, anything else?
I guess one other thing, I was told there was an outbreak recently, at least I was told there was, but a little bit ago, the lady talking about the crime, I believe. I think that another part of that would be our investment in the citizens. The sooner we invest in citizens, the more we give them reasons not to do things. It's not just about having opportunities to do crime. It's about giving the citizens opportunities so that they don't ever have to think about committing crimes. So if we invest in them at a younger age, house them, feed them, clothe them, make sure that everybody's taken care of, I think it'll be cheaper and better for us in the long run. And with all this money we're getting, I think that maybe we could start doing things like that. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for your comment, David. Adam, reactions?
I think, we hear a lot of complex issues as we hear from callers, which is why we're here today. And again, just want to extend my appreciation for them to reach out and for us to be able to hear that feedback.
All righty, let's cue our next survey question. All righty, you see it on screen, and for those on audio only, infrastructure can mean building new projects or fixing something that already exists. What do you think the city should prioritize? First, projects that should build something new. Second, or B, projects that improve something that already exists. Or C, projects that fix something that's outdated. Again, infrastructure can mean building new projects or fixing something. What do you think the city should prioritize? Building something new, improving something that exists, or fixing something that's outdated? I've got a couple of more minutes for a few more callers, but before we turn to them, Adam, what do you think about these categories?
You know, this is, I've said this in previous town halls, and I'll say it again here. This is one of my favorite questions because it gives us a little bit of an opportunity to brag on the infrastructure that we do have here in Denver. So let me throw some facts out there for the audience today. You know, in Denver, we've got 25 libraries. We have over 26,000 acres of parkland, 120 miles of bike lanes. And when you look at our infrastructure assets holistically, about $8.6 billion is represented there. And so when we ask this question on, you know, what's most appropriate and where does the community think we should invest, you know, it's all about balance on making sure that we sustainably invest and maintain the assets, that 8.6 billion that we have today, but also ensure that we provide new and additional access, specifically in those areas that historically have been, you know, underprovided for. And so it's great to see in response to this. We like to see the balance here. I like to see the balance here. You know, we've done a lot of these public outreach sessions over the last few years. In this process, we've collected over $4 billion worth of new project ideas. And so again, it's good to see here as I look at these responses live on the screen, a community that recognizes and sees the value in making sure that we not only build and expand our assets, but also focus on maintaining and improving the assets that we have in place today.
Excellent. Thank you, Adam. Some of the results are fascinating here. Overwhelmingly, people would prefer to improve something that already exists or fix something that's outdated. Not a whole lot of interest in building something new, at least not in today's surveys. All righty. I've got two more callers here on this issue of infrastructure. I'm going to turn first to Megan from Park Hill. Megan, you have the floor.
Hi there, my name is Megan. I'd like to talk about after school and summer programming in Denver. After school and summer programming is important to the recovery of our students and a vital resource to working families, but not all students have access to it. A lot of the programs at the schools have waiting lists or families can't afford it. And there's some wonderful community-based organizations that offer this type of programming, but there's not enough of them and they can't serve all the schools. So I know the Department of Education has another round of ESSER funding coming, and they've got the 21st Century Program, but those are both time limited, and organizations need funding beyond those resources to remain sustainable. So I wanted to know, Denver, what Denver's plans are to increase access to after school and summer programming for our kids and our schools, and also to ensure sustainability of the programs that are out there now. Thank you.
And Adam, I'm happy to chat a little about this before anyone else may want to weigh in. Thanks for the question, Megan. Again, you know, this is just such a great platform to be able to do a little bit of educating folks on what we do in the city. The city not only do programs like Human Services have a child care assistance program, but we work really closely with the preschool program that Denver has, and the other programs that are around the city, the Early Childhood Council, to really try to address the very issue you're talking about, which impacts Eric's area of how do we get folks back to work, as well as my area, how do we help people. It really impacts all of us because you can't work if if you don't have good childcare. A lot of families. So there's some really creative ideas coming out around the money we already collect around early childhood education. The state is even, I think they passed the bill, if not they're about to create a whole new department focused on early childhood education that I think will put an even more intense lens on this very issue you're talking about. And I think it may take some time, take more resources, but that's sort of what this is about, is where should we be investing some of the resources we have or hope to have. And again, I'll chalk up your comment as a vote that monies for both after school and pre-work and childcare is a place that you'd like to see us invest. So thank you for that vote.
Thank you, Don. Anything to add, Adam?
No, I think Don captured that very well. So Don, appreciate the input there.
Excellent. Okay, well, we're going to take the next 15 or 20 minutes to take callers' comments on where the city should make investments, whether it's on the business side, on the community side, or on the infrastructure side, and comments for any of our panelists today. We're going to flash the numbers on screen in just a second if you need a reminder about where to call, and invite anybody out there to offer their thoughts on the city's future. And there you see on the screen, 4 numbers depending upon the language you prefer. If you're calling in, English 888-400-1932, Spanish 888-400-9342, Vietnamese 877-353-4701, Amharic 888-849-5231. It looks like we have Tess back from District 9. Welcome back, Tess. Your question is?
Hi there. Thanks for having me on today. I'm interested in understanding how we are going to provide permanent housing for people experiencing homelessness and for the number of people who will be evicted due to the lift on the moratorium, and there already have been thousands of eviction filings just this year in the city of Denver. And I'm concerned because we've been really focused in pushing a shelter-only strategy, and we've been traumatically displacing people 3 times a week. We've now, we've already exceeded the number of traumatic displacements that we did last year, and it's only June. So I'm curious about how that money may be divested and reinvested into actual permanent housing using a housing first model. Can you explain how the city plans to do that? Thank you.
Thank you.
And Adam,
responses?
I'll start, and I don't know if Adam or anyone has any more follow-up, but let me start by just correcting one thing you said, Tess, and that is that it seems like we're focused on a shelter-only strategy. I think, let me use the phrase, nothing could be further from the truth. We are investing tens of millions of dollars in creating housing for folks. And I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers. The people from the Housing Stability Office do, but there are hundreds and hundreds of new housing units that we've created over the last several years with not only the new Department of Housing Stability, but on top of that, with the tax that was passed by the voters that has really infused money into building housing. So on top of that, of course, we do have a shelter strategy because it's got to be a combination of things. So with that, I see a couple of the folks can weigh in, including Eric. So I'll leave it at that from my point of view.
Eric, over to you.
Oh, sure. So yes, in terms of beds and the capacity, we're really serving have the capacity to serve 2,200 people per night, and that's a 60% increase from pre-pandemic. I know that there's a few but we need to do more. And there's a few other proposals that are on deck, I think recently announced as of last month. But you are correct. We need that transitional housing, and that is certainly part of the host strategy. It's not within Don or my department, but there will be a laser focus in this area. Thank you.
All right, I think we have a slide about how jobs are created from infrastructure. What are your thoughts in that space? It's the nexus of economy and jobs. There you go.
Yeah, and Adam, I can jump in here a little bit as well. I see, on the screen in front of us, we have this new proposed general obligation bond with $400 million investment into Denver here that we're proposing. It's important to note that for every dollar that we spend in infrastructure, we see a $3 return. We see that, in direct wages. We see that in indirect spending throughout the community, and we see that, throughout the economy. And Mayor Hancock made this point earlier in the session today about the role that infrastructure investment played to help us get out of the Great Recession, create those jobs, but directly for the construction industry, but of course secondary to those supporting industries, and continue to see that strategy employed here today and proposed here today, and just really want to emphasize that return that we get as a city there's not a lot of places where you can turn $1 into $3 that easily. And so certainly see the value in the infrastructure investment here in Denver.
Okay, we do have another caller here. I believe Pat from Virginia Village is waiting to speak with us. Pat, good morning.
Okay, specifically, am I speaking? Hello. I forgot what I called in about. Let me see. I wanted, we listeners online, right? I mean, on the phones right now. I wish that you could give us a certain phone number or several, or a website that we might go to if we want to help a homeless person. We have had a homeless woman in our family for about 2.5 years now, and we haven't done anything to get her out of her situation. I know it's really up to her, and I think she's capable of doing it herself. But since nothing seems to be moving, I'm asking if you could provide certain phone numbers or departments where we could go and get an appointment to get the ball rolling here, to get on her or the person in question on their case. If we can somehow, the homeowner can get the ball rolling in solving this a particular homelessness situation.
Ron, you want to jump in here?
Hello. Yeah. Let me start by just saying, here's a telephone number to call to connect with Denver Human Services around what we might be able to do. And to the degree we can, help you connect with other agencies and other help, happy to do it for anyone who's listening. And it's 720-944-4DHS. 720-944-4DHS. And of course, you can always go on denvergov.org/human services and click on links. But if you call that number, or folks are listening who need more individualized kind of help, we'll do our best to try to not only help you with our services, but connect you to the right folks.
Thank you, Don. Let's move to another caller, Maggie from District 6. Maggie, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Maggie Bolden. I live in District 6, as mentioned, and I also work for a local general contractor, and we build a lot of affordable housing. We are currently building affordable condos for Northeast Denver housing. And my comment or question is, many people do not know that there are other local nonprofit housing providers, such as Rocky Mountain Communities, Hope Communities, etc. And I'm just wondering if the city has a database that is easily searchable for people to get access to the other nonprofit housing providers other than just Denver Housing Authority. They're a great organization, but there are so many other nonprofits that offer affordable housing. And just wondering if there is a database, and if there isn't, is it a possibility to create that where it's easily accessed by the public? Thank you.
Who wants to field that question? Eric?
I am not familiar with a particular database, but I think we can work with the host team and get your information and get right back to you.
Yep, and we will respond. Our team has your number, Maggie, and we'll take this offline and get you the answers that you need. Next up is Carrie from West Highland.
Hi there. Thanks for holding this. I have one comment and then a question. So first, I know that this is one of many, you're doing surveys, and this is just one of one venue of people to give feedback. But I am wondering what the process is to get into those neighborhoods that might not be engaged and participate in a telephone town hall and might not have internet to do a survey. And because I think that some of the responses today aren't necessarily reflective of what other neighborhoods that are not participating today would answer. So, and then my comment is just, I would encourage everyone at every level to invest in communities and divest from policing and law enforcement that is punitive in nature and not regenerative in nature. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. I know that city officials have used a call out line and have sent out several thousand flyers trying to get people from every possible neighborhood engaged in this process, and will continue to do so. Any further thoughts from our panelists on this?
Yes, I do think it is a multi-dimensional strategy. Obviously, we can go online. We're doing these telephone call outs, reach out to people by phone. We did those in-person flyers. So, and we are really focusing on our neighborhood equity stabilization neighborhoods, those neighborhoods at risk of displacement. So it's a very good comment. I think another channel could be to work with your city council person as well, as we want to really solicit feedback from a wide variety of the city, especially those that are under-resourced.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric. We do have our numbers still posted on screen along with a last poll. We're asking for those who are on the phone, how old are you? The choices are 17 or younger, that would be choice A, 18 to 28, that would be choice B or the number 2, choice C or the number 3, 29 to 49 years old, choice D or 4, ages 50 to 70, choice E or 5, 71 or older. Again, last poll of the day is how old are you? 17 or younger, A or 1, B or 2 is 18 to 28, C or 3 is 29 to 49, D or 4, 50 to 70, E or 5, 71 or older. The phone numbers for calling in are also on the line. We've got just a couple more minutes, and happy to take a caller or two if we get that far. I did want to respond to the last caller about ways to participate. There is a survey for the 5-year strategic goals plan at www.surveymonkey.com/r/Denver host. And you can offer your commentary to the strategic plan goals over there directly. Let's see, are there any more callers out there? We'll give it another minute or two with the poll up on screen. Offer as well the opportunity for all of our panelists to offer a closing remark if they'd like. Eric, Don, Adam, any last words?
Yeah, Adam, I'll jump in here. I just want to take a moment just to thank the folks that attended and took part in this today. As we've mentioned throughout the discussion, it's critical for us to hear from the community on what they see as the priority, so that we can take that back, we can thread that into our plan of recovery, and ensure that we're bringing ourselves out of this pandemic into the next steps as collaboratively as possible. So again, just want to thank everybody for their time this morning.
Thank you, sir. Other remarks?
Yes, I'd like to echo Adam's comment. And in regards to the previous question on the affordable housing lenders builders list, there is a list on the website, www.denvergov.org/housing. So please check that website.
Excellent. Just another fascinating response in our survey. Half of the respondents today, at least for that question, were of the demographic 29 to 50 years old. It's great to see that stretch in demographic represented and active in the community, and bids well for the future of the city of Denver. Don, just back on screen, any closing thoughts?
I just wanted to say, thanks to everybody for joining. And I wanted to point out that when we talk about Rise Together, that Eric and his team in the city have put together that effort. And RISE is an acronym that talks about rebuilding for inclusivity and an inclusive and sustainable economy. So I think that we are walking the talk when it comes to how we're reaching out to communities to make sure. And I do appreciate Carrie's comment about making sure we're getting out there for folks who may not have internet. But just know that we're really walking the talk, and appreciate you all joining.
Excellent. Well, thank you to the three of you, as well as the City Council President and Mayor Hancock as well. And thank you to our audience today. If you've enjoyed sharing your feedback, then please visit the address on screen, www.risetogetherdenver.org, to keep the conversation going. You'll find more survey questions and open forums online there. We thank you for your participation and wish you the very best of Saturdays and the weekend. Good day for now.